Well, the thought of Donald Trump walking into the House chamber again may make you want to crawl into the fetal position, which I totally understand. That speech is actually where I want to start. And here's why. Because tomorrow night, he's going to give you his version of events. And I want to give you mine. Now, I could sit here and tell you all about the inner workings of how a big speech like this typically comes together in a White House, how the writing process typically works, how the preparation typically works, how the strategy typically works, what a president is thinking about in the days ahead, all of the things. I could talk about all of that. But the thing is, in this moment, that would all be pretty useless. Because this is not a normal speech. It's not a normal presidency. It's not a normal reality we are all living in, to state the obvious. And I think it's important to remember all of that heading into tomorrow night. Because Trump is going to have a big platform. And he's definitely going to try his hardest to convince you that his plan and his last 6 weeks in office have helped you somehow. Now, I mean, just this morning, Trump previewed his speech by saying, quote, "Tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is." But let me translate that for you real quick. When Trump says he'll tell it like it is, what he really means is that he's going to tell you what his own warped version of what he wants you to believe. I mean, I obviously don't know what's in the speech. I can't entirely predict all the things he's going to talk about at all. But I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to lie, he's going to exaggerate, he's going to sugarcoat, he's going to say a lot of things that aren't true. As you're watching that and resisting the urge to throw something at the TV, if you do, just make sure it's a soft thing. Just remember that you know what's true. No matter what he says tomorrow, you know what he's already done. You know what you've been seeing with your own eyes. You know how you and your family and your neighbors have been feeling. I mean, you probably felt a little less safe booking that next flight after a series of recent crashes and air disasters, as Trump and Musk continued their quest to gut the FAA. I bet you've heard about the measles outbreak in Texas, killing a child that might be the same age as your kid or your grandkid, as Trump and Musk got the Department of Health and Human Services. You might have seen the news today that for the first time in history, your Social Security checks might not come on time. You've probably gone to the grocery store over the past few weeks and seen that the prices have not actually gone down, but up. And you know that when Trump imposes his tariffs on Canada and Mexico in a few hours, costs will go up even more. If you have money in the stock market, you probably noticed that the markets tanked today after Trump confirmed those tariffs are coming. And I know you saw what happened in the Oval Office on Friday, when Trump berated an ally under attack and sided with a murderous dictator. Point is this, you see what's happening, you know what's happening. And if you spent the last few weeks worrying about what all of this means for you and what this means for the country and your community, you're not alone. I mean, you're in the majority, actually. Brand new polling shows that a majority of Americans say the State of the Union is not very strong. A majority of Americans say the cuts to the federal government are doing more harm than good. A majority of Americans say Trump has not paid enough attention to the country's most important problems. And the only president who had a lower approval rating than Donald Trump at this point in their presidency is Donald Trump. Again, you see what's happening. You know what's happening. And you are in the majority. We see that very clearly in the data. And we're also seeing it in communities and town halls all across the country. I mean, look at the greeting Vice President J.D. Vance got in Vermont over the weekend, when citizens crowded the streets carrying signs like "Democracy, not fascism," and my personal favorite, "Go ski in Russia, J.D." And listen to this chorus of boos at Congressman Keith Self's town hall in Texas over the weekend.
Those programs.
I mean, that's pretty loud from the people of Texas. And watch this moment from a town hall in Kansas where constituents pressed Senator Roger Marshall so forcefully that he literally just got up and walked out.
We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
They seem a little displeased there in Kansas. And I want you to take a listen to one more. This is from Congressman Tom Suozzi's town hall over the weekend. And keep in mind as you're watching that, well, yes, he is a Democrat. He represents a very purple district.
Listen, everybody's freaking out. Everybody's like, I'm Mr. Let's work together. Let's try and find common ground. And what happened in the White House yesterday, I was so pissed off. That it was just so... I knew you had to get that out of your system.
I mean, he was referencing Donald Trump berating Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, in the Oval Office. And people were clapping because they were pissed off, too. It's pretty loud and clear from the people of Long Island. Now, Trump, of course, came out this morning and said nothing to see here, and that all of these people and at all of these town halls are just paid troublemakers. That's his claim. And, of course, there's no evidence that that's true. But that response is an awfully good window into what we will likely hear from him tomorrow night. He's going to tell you not to believe what you're seeing with your own eyes, not to believe what you're feeling in your gut, and to just take him at his word. I'm here to tell you to do the exact opposite. I'm here to tell you to trust what you've been seeing with your own eyes. Believe what you've been feeling in your gut, and know that you are definitely not alone. I can't think of two better people to talk with about all of this. Dan Pfeiffer is a former senior advisor to President Obama and co-host of Pod Save America. Ben Rhodes is the former deputy national security advisor to President Obama. If this was a normal State of the Union, we could just get super nerdy about all the preparations, but it's not. So we're not going to do that. So, Dan, let me start with you. I just gave my take on how I'm looking at tomorrow night. We're all going to watch it. So if people watching don't want to watch it, we'll tell you all about it. But how are you looking at it?
I think one of the big questions about this speech is everyone, people like us, the media, the Democrats in Congress, going to treat it like a normal speech, just a slightly more extreme version of a traditional State of the Union? But that's not what this is, right? We know what we're going to get is going to be gaslighting. We know that we are undergoing one of the most radical and dangerous, potentially unconstitutional changes in how America operates over the last 6 weeks here. And are we going to treat it as such? Are we just going to get up there and critique what he says, say, maybe this wasn't exactly right, maybe this wasn't wrong, go through the strategy of it, and then come out with our talking points about the price of eggs, right? Or are we going to play a bigger game here and talk about what's really happening? And I think that's the question for all of us as we try to figure out, because we don't really have the vocabulary or the experience to really deal with what Trump is doing, with Elon Musk are doing to our country right now.
No question. It's unprecedented is one way of talking about it, but it's many, many things. Ben, let me ask you, I mean, one of the things that you always prepare for and you always watch on the outside is sort of what everybody does in the room. And I'm sure we will talk about that tomorrow as we see it. But I think it's important to also level set just how abnormal and horrible in many ways things are right now. I mean, we just learned tonight that the U.S. is going to pause all military assistance into Ukraine. I think we should expect anything in this moment, of course. But if Trump makes a big deal of that tomorrow night, are you expecting Republicans in the chamber are going to stand up and applaud? I mean, what should we be preparing for, to the degree we even know in that regard?
Well, just to build on what you said in your opening, Jen, and what Dan said, he's going to try to present all of these deeply radical things he's doing on his own terms. Yeah. And then there's going to be this instinct to digest them as if they're kind of policy shifts, right? So Ukraine, he will present what he's doing, berating President Zelensky in the Oval Office and cutting all assistance, as a peace plan, and not as what it really is, which is a transformative event in American history where the United States is shifting from the side of our European allies to the side of Vladimir Putin. That's what it is. He will try to present it as something else, as a peace plan, in the same way that he'll try to present, DOGE as just an effort to get rid of waste and fraud and cut some spending from the budget, and not what it actually is, which is an effort led by a tech oligarch to dismantle the U.S. federal government, right? And so across the board, there are going to be these things where he's trying to kind of take advantage of the normalcy of the venue. I just am a guy with an agenda to make government work better, to bring peace to Ukraine, to have a big, beautiful economy. Never mind that the tariffs that are going to go into effect tomorrow are going to have huge disruptive effects on vital American sectors like the automotive sector, or like the prices of food. And so I think the Republicans, look, I have no hope for them. They'll stand and applaud. They'll salute Mr. Trump. They'll do whatever they have to do to avoid, some MAGA media coming after them. I think what we have to do is not give in to the normalcy of the event. We are living through a very abnormal thing that is happening, and we're going to be living through it for at least 2 years until the midterm elections. And I think that's how Democrats need to respond. And frankly, everybody who's in the kind of reality-based world, whatever their party affiliation, needs to respond.
I mean, the man can read from a teleprompter if he needs to. I actually don't. I mean, the inauguration was so much crazier than the first inauguration, so that's not what I expect. But if anyone says he became president tomorrow night, I'm going to lay on the ground. So I hope that's not what happens anywhere. Dan, let me ask you just about Democrats, and because that is one thing Ben raised there, and also you referenced. I mean, the vernacular and the how exactly to fight back. It feels like everybody's kind of working out the kinks of what works and what doesn't work. Some Democrats are not showing up. Some are doing alternative events. Some are bringing federal workers who have been fired. What do you think they should do?
I mean, all of the above, honestly, which is, I think, for much of we're getting better. We should stipulate the Democrats are getting better than they were a few weeks ago. But as a party, we've been so flummoxed by how to deal with Trump, because I think the results of the election, the degree of the shift in Trump's direction really sort of broke people's brains. And so we're like, a lot of people are waiting for whatever the silver bullet, the right message, when the one poll that's going to tell us what to do, when the reality is just like, get out there and make noise, right? Get out, because right now, and this is, I think, the lesson of media in the Trump era is quantity is more important than precision in what you say. So go out there and try to get attention. My only piece of advice, I think, is don't play whack-a-mole. Try to tell one story about what Trump is doing. And the story that I would recommend is corruption. It is what ties all of this together, right? Whether you have the world's richest man rooting through our government, including the regulators that look after his businesses, whether you have a taxpayer-funded crypto scam, whether you have a taxpayer-funded political ad for Trump, a bunch of people are enriching themselves within the government. Like, that is a story that can tie everything together. But you don't have to take my story. Just get out there and start talking.